Good evening, everyone. This is Ron. It's Monday evening. We'll see if we have any questions. Last time we spoke, I think the things that dominated the conversation was talking about Jesus and pastors anxious to go back to that because we talked about the non-existence of Jesus on yesterday, and that generated some discussion. So he wants to revisit that and make the comparison with Horace in the Kemet spirituality, the similarities there. So he's going to cover that when time permits, maybe tonight if he gets on. Uh, the other thing we talked about, I think yesterday was the eclipse. We talked about that a good bit as well. Spiritual implications. I thought was very interesting. Uh, See things in a way I'd never thought about before. So, can I ask everybody to mute your phones, please? Please. Okay. So, any questions this evening about anything we talked about yesterday, or anything that may have grabbed your attention?
Good evening, everyone. Ron and to the members of the body. Just wanted to let you all know Monique's mother transitioned early this morning.
Oh
And
man. Okay.
yeah, if
Sorry to hear
y'all
that.
can, yeah, if you all can call her up or send her a text message and just let her be a little vulnerable with y'all. Thank you very much.
You know what, George? She texted me and I did not see it. She texted me this afternoon and I didn't know it. Oh, thank you for sharing that.
Our
But
condolences.
yeah, Mondays are crazy for me. Wow. Okay. I'll make sure Pastor's aware as well. Because I spoke to him and he didn't say anything. If he'd known, but he sounded kind of busy as well, though. But anyway, thank you for sharing that. Oh, prayers and thoughts with the family. Anything you need, George?
No, not that I'm aware of. Just nonetheless, though, in my dialogue with Monique, just let her know, hey, you can be vulnerable around me. Um, all the things that you need to say at a time like that.
Yeah,
My baby boy Ellison, he had to see the process of them putting his grandmother on the gurney in the corner, coming in and they doing what they do and stuff like that. But nonetheless, just wanted to share that with my spiritual family, and that's about it right there.
thank you. Thank you, man. Okay. Okay. Um, kind of hard to go forward after that. But okay. I'll get in touch with Monique after we're done here. But any thoughts or questions about anything, guys? Okay. Something was yesterday, Evelyn said something that got my attention. Uh or was it the day before yesterday? It may have been Saturday. Saturday it was when she made a comment about little children and pastor's answer to it. Part of his answer was we when we read that scripture out of Matthew, when it talks when Jesus when they asked Jesus, you guys mind going there? Let's go to Matthew chapter, I think it's 18. Yeah, chapter 18. You good?
Good.
Okay. Uh At the time the disciples, I'm starting at verse 1, sorry. At the time the disciples came to Jesus and said, "Who then is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?" And he called a child to himself, and he set him before them and said, "Truly I say unto you, unless you are converted and become like children, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. Whoever then humbles himself as this child, he is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And whoever receives one such as a child in my name receives me. But whoever causes one of these little ones who believes in me to stumble, it would be better for him to have a heavy millstone hung around his neck and be drowned in the depths of the sea." I wanted to make a comparison to something else when I saw that. I was looking at something that Audrey mentioned several weeks ago in the Gospel of Thomas. In the Gospel of Thomas says, Yeshua saw some little babies nursing. He said to his students, "These nursing babies are like those who enter the kingdom." They said to him, "Then who shall we enter? Then shall we enter the kingdom as babes?" Yeshua said to them, when you make the two into one, when you make the inner like the outer, and the outer like the inner, and the upper like the lower, when you make the male and the female into a single one, so that the male will no longer be male, nor the female female, when you make eyes in place of an eye, a hand in place of a hand, a foot in place of a foot, an image in place of an image, then you will enter the kingdom. That kind of got my attention the other day, because we've talked about, I know Evelyn has mentioned it a couple of times, but we talk about little children. Children come up, and for some reason it kind of registered to me this time. It kind of got my attention a little bit. And for you guys who are just getting on, we're talking about children. I'll just kind of seeing first if we had any questions about what we've been discussing. But I was looking at the scripture in Mark 18, when Jesus talks about the little children, and seeing where we are with that. And I was making a comparison to what was in the book of Thomas in saying number 22. And again, this isn't anything new. It's something we've talked about before, but just something I thought was interesting. Oh, and by the way, I know that I said the other day to look at 2 Kings. There's still something I want to look at there, but this kind of got my attention as well, that I thought it was something that something worth discussing. Okay. In Matthew 2 and 5, Matthew 18, verses 2 through 5, there are two words in the Aramaic for child. One is Yalad, Yalad, and it means a child, a small child or a lad. The other one is Tabitha, Tabitha, and that's the one. I was reading some stuff on this as I looked the word up. Hello. Okay. One of the rabbis said that he used the second word there. And that word is a little more interesting to me. What that word says is, it reminded me of something Barb said the other day that I want to get into, try to tie into it. But that word is this. That word is when a child looks to you as their savior. That child looks to you as everything. For example, you spank a child and the child cries, and the child cries not because you've hurt him or her, but the child cries because they know, he or she knows that they have disappointed you, they have hurt you. So it is that response, that feeling in the child that brings about pain. So the child clings to you, and the child recognizes that its very existence, its happiness, everything that about his or her life comes from you. And you are far more than just a hero to this child. This child sees you as its whole world. You are that you are the universe to that child. So that child sees you as everything. That's the kind of word this is. When he talks about little children. So what exactly does that mean? As we look at this, and he said, well, who is the greatest? How does that make you the greatest? When it talks about being at the state when you can humble yourself to that degree that you no longer see yourself as see yourself through the eyes of religion, or see yourself through whatever job you have or whatever status you have. You are able to move pride out of the way 100% and be able to see yourself from that perspective, or almost totally vulnerable in that state. Spiritually, you are open, you are have a desire to connect to something extremely higher than you. So when I looked at that, I thought about that, and to look at this even another way. The other way is when he says to them, when you read this scripture, hold on, let me laptop goes off. Okay. He called a little child to himself and set him before them and said, truly I said to you, unless you convert and become like little children, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. Whoever humbles himself as a child, he is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And whoever receives one such child as my name receives me. What if you are both sides of that? As Pastor said, he talked about spiritual maturity, excuse me, and was saying to us that we are babes as well. We are little children as well. But can you see yourself as both sides of that? Do you see yourself as the the adult and the child? Meaning that you recognize that there's something inside of you that is soft. There is something inside of you that is loving and kind. There is something inside of you that is vulnerable. There is something inside of you that is completely giving. And there is something inside of you that is dependent on your rising and following this journey that we have set upon, that the Creator has set us on. But you, the other parts of you, the outer side of you, or the part of you that hasn't converted, how much do you appreciate that? So it's not, the conversion is not so much I see this child as something separate than me. I am the child and the child is me. So I see both sides of this, and being who I am, and makes me appreciate the child and appreciate me, and appreciate the adult me, or the part of me that struggles. So I said to you, Bob said something a couple weeks ago that really touched me, and I think it changed me and had an effect on me. She talked about and I don't remember the exact words, but the same yearning that the baby has when the baby cries to be picked up, the mother has to pick the baby up. So they become one. That same energy reaches both sides, and they become one. There is no separation. And that's what this reminds me of. So as we look at this, and then you kind of compare it back to the gospel of Thomas, when we recognize that that as you must become as a little child, exactly what that means, that we We are swallow your pride. You swallow all the stuff you think you knew. You actually submit yourself and make yourself vulnerable. We talked about it in so many different ways. We talked about it as it being equally yoked to self, the mind. We talked about it when we talk about the inner and the outer self. We talk about it when we talk about the relationship between Sarah and Abraham, the masculine and the feminine. We talked about when Adam opens himself up and sees his femininity. All of those are the same conversations. But when you reach the point where when you reach the place where you start to see that and you start to feel that expansion in you, in other words, you feel the growth, you feel the desire changing, not to be something selfish, but to be you start to see yourself as more of a community and understand what that means. Then I think that's what goes into the Gospel of Thomas. When you no longer see self, that is when the two will become one. And it's not talking about two people, talking about the size of you, who you are. And when you make the inner as the outer and the outer as the inner and the upper as the lower, when it doesn't matter when it's male or female, because you have balance. You are seeking balance. You are becoming whatever is needed. You recognize who you are. You recognize that I am no longer a Cain or an Abel. I am a Seth, meaning that I am the regeneration of what I need to be. I'm the regeneration of the atom. I am the regeneration of the energy that I need to be in the earth. So any questions before we go on with this? Any questions or comments? Does this make sense to you?
Right, it makes sense. This is Charles. I got a question.
Okay.
I don't know what's what we're dealing with, but something to it. You know how when Jesus said, "The sheep know my voice,"
Uh-huh.
and okay, the reason I'm saying that, it's just like a woman child is in the midst of other children, and that woman child start crying. Her ears is tuned to that one child's voice over all the other children. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
So that's how I see it.
Yeah.
Because that
Go on, Charles. Go ahead.
Because that child is so, unique, and she can hear a child real good. I mean, with no doubt about it. She said, they'll say, "How you know your child cry?" "I know my child cry." And that's how Jesus knows us.
Yeah. That's a good example, Charles. That's better example than what I was saying. You become one with the child. And the two sides is I am the adult, I am the caretaker, and I am also the vulnerable side of me. I am the one that needs to be cared for. I am that soft side. I am like a little child that I open myself up and I desire you. I desire you to take care of me. I desire you to be my parent. I desire to be loved, and I give love in return because that's all that I have. I'm just a child. And in a minute, I'm gonna tell you why I think this is important, why all of this is important. But thank you, Charles. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Hey, this is Barbara. I'd like to add something. One of the other characteristics of a child-parent relationship is that you've already talked about being submissive and vulnerable and giving, but the child trusts and has an expectation that whatever happens, the parent has got this. Whatever it needs, the parent can provide for it. And so it's a synchronistic thing, just like Charles was talking about when a mother hears her child cry, she knows the cry. Well, whatever that child needs, the adult provides it. And the child doesn't expect anything less.
Yes.
The parent can do no wrong in the eyes of the child. Even when the child is disciplined, it gets over it really quickly, and it goes to that parent and just hugs it and loves the parent. So those are the things that help us understand that that's the kind of relationship we have with the Creator. And there are times when we need to be disciplined depending on what the issue is. But we have the expectation that everything that happens is for our good, that we can grow thereby. The other thing you mentioned was about the calf and wanting to suckle. So as much as the calf wants to suckle, the cow wants to be sucked.
Yes.
And as you say, it's a mutual kind of thing. As bad as you want, as hungry as you are, I need you to suckle because I can't make any additional milk unless I share what I already have with the cow. So, and a nursing mother knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You just have that giving and taking, and the giving is not just on one side; it's on both sides.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Great explanation. Anyone else? I think was someone about to say something? I think,
Yeah, thank you, Ron.
okay.
Or whoever was about to speak, y'all can go ahead.
No, go ahead, George. I yield. Go ahead, George.
Hey, thank you, Mr. George out of Philly. One of the things I've just gathered just by the conversation, courting. If the male effectively courts the female properly, he can turn a grown female into a little girl by courting. Making her feel vulnerable. Well, hey, let's go get some ice cream. So that's one aspect of it, of turning in an adult into a child. The other aspect of what Mr. Charles stated about the mama always know her child's cry. In that, does the father also recognizes the child's cry? Because in some aspects of life, with the African American male, the only time we can be vulnerable is with our mother. Not all fathers or daddies. That's a very difficult role for the husband and for the father or daddy, because we have to teach them how to be competitive yet share at the same time. So just by way of courting, if the courting is done properly by the male, I feel he can turn a grown woman into a little girl.
George.
That's about it, right?
Yes. I like the courting analogy that you're using, but what happens on the masculine side of that? If his desire is to court her to the degree that she is that trusting and that loving, feeling that she is loved, what happens to him? Does it change him as well? That's the part we're looking at.
Well, when you say masculine side, Ron, are you saying the male?
Yes.
Well,
yes.
Okay, though. Well, with the male, it at least shows the male that he can think beyond his nose. He can think about someone other than himself. So it does have an effect on the male. And I hope I answered your question with that, Ron. It does have an effect on the male that he's being submissive and he's paying attention to every detail of the person that he is courting. If he goes into a restroom and he sees grapefruit Bath and Body Works, then he should know when I go to Bath and Body Works, I need to get this fragrance. That's all I see in the bathroom. He's paying attention to detail. I hope I was able to answer it. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you, Ron.
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
sorry. Thank you. I was going to challenge George. I was going to challenge. I was going to challenge what you said for you to be more expansive about it as well, because in a relationship where two people have a relationship and mutual respect, the woman can do the same thing as it relates to the man as well as what the man can do in terms of how he makes the woman feel. For instance, if I understand you as the male in my relationship, and I know what your needs are, what makes you, what lifts your spirit, what I can begin to also minister, and I say that term loosely. I can also provide what you as the male needs in the relationship as well, from the details that I pick up in terms of what makes you feel like the father, the lover, the husband, the giver, the friend in the relation, the companion. So it's a two-way street. It's a two-way street.
Yeah. Makes sense, y'all?
And Ms. Barbara, I would have to agree with what you stated, yet some things just sound better coming from the female as it relates to the same kind of energy that can be given toward the male. And I agree with you 1,000% in that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. The bottom line is it is impossible for you to enter into any type of relationship and it not have an effect on you if you cherish that relationship of the person you're entering a relationship with, whether it be one of mutual friendship or one that is romantic. That should be some give and take in that relationship. How much more should it be though with a child? Someone that you have nothing but affection for and can give you absolutely nothing but love. You know that this child has nothing else materialistically to give you, to offer you. And the very love that child shows you is your reward. That's something sometimes I think it's worth taking a step back and pondering and appreciating. I'm sorry, George, you had George Clark. George, did you have a comment? I'm sorry.
Yeah, Ron. Good evening, everyone. I was just looking at another analogy in terms of how we were speaking about, the giving and the taking in terms of a child and an adult. And remember, we say when the student is ready to learn, the teacher will appear. Not looking in terms of gender, but looking at it in terms of the giving and receiving. I mean, as adults, we know that we are teachers, right, to children, but at the same time, we can learn from children. And so as you're speaking about the scripture, I think that it has a lot of validity in terms of us being able to appreciate the oneness of the love that we are giving and receiving. And so I was just looking at it in that analogy in terms of when the student is ready to learn, the teacher will appear. But at the same time, again, it's the teacher too that can learn from the student. And so I think it's a giving on both levels when we talk about everybody needs love. And so that's where, again, as babes, there's so much we can learn, from both sides of the coin, so to speak. I'm done. I just want to share those thoughts.
Great point, George, because that's the point I'm making. Everyone has really made so far as well. Seeing yourself on both sides of this. See, and I mentioned to you, I said there is a reason why this touched me. So, and that reason is this: we are up on an election year. There is nothing more that there's nothing more troubling right now in our land and probably the whole globe, but racism. We are separated. We are separated. Now, you think about the journey that we've taken. We started off being religious and we were very sincere about what we were trying to find. And the Lord, our Creator, has allowed us to take this journey. We followed religion till we exhausted every part of it that we could, meaning we've looked at between pastor and the 12 of us, the 12 teachers, and probably a lot of you as well. We've looked at almost every book out there we can think of. We've followed authors. We follow different type of rabbis and teachers, and we've studied Hebrew. We've studied other aspects of religion. We've looked at the tree of life and what that means. We looked at breath. We've looked. I mean, everything you can think of, trying to pursue truth. And we were not just doing this randomly. The Creator took us down this path. It's almost like we're on a safari. We're in the wild, and we're following this path. And this path, when we got into the scriptures and we started looking at the utterances, and that took us back to Genesis and looking at some stuff in Genesis. We took a very strong look at Adam and Eve, and then we took another strong look at Abraham and Sarah. All of this took us back to beginning. We go and we look at beginning. We look at what that means, and lo and behold, the Creator allowed us to come back to beginning. And part of this journey has involved even the class out of California, some of the dialogue that we've had with this. None of this has been haphazard. So here we are now. We see beginning now, not just from the perspective of Genesis or in the book of John. I can't remember, John 3rd chapter. We look at it from the Africa before slavery. What was spirituality like in the land? What was spirituality like in the land? So we look at that, and it led us from looking at the Dogons to different tribes to different kings and different leaders, and then the whole time, as I think I said the other day, George had gone. The Creator had sent George ahead of us. And George was reading all this stuff on the Cushites, and that just a light went off. And we recognize that is a beginning. That is the beginning we were looking for. What does all of this look like before there was anything called Christianity? So who are we? So when we went back that far, this whole time we're shedding off who we are. We've shed off the Christianity. We shed off the Baptists. We've shed off all the stuff we thought we knew. We are being evolved right now, and we're at the point through this evolution that we are in an election year. And not only are you students now, you are the energy of light that is out there in the earth. So you are not only just seeking to be healed, seeking to be filled with truth, but you are also healers now. So it is what we're learning now, how we look at the earth. If I see myself as a babe, and I see myself as the guardian of that babe, I have sympathy. I have love and compassion, and it doesn't matter if I'm male or female at that point. That relationship that each and every one of us described, It doesn't matter. The inner and the outer of me becomes one, and all that makes sense. As Barb says, I want to be suckled because I have a baby that needs to be nourished. So how do I see the world? As all this stuff is chaotic, and we know that this is going to get probably a little more chaotic. What happens? Who is the covering? Who is the enlightenment? How do you pray? How do you meditate? We're no longer, hopefully, we're at a place of maturity that we're growing to that place that everything doesn't make us angry anymore. Everything doesn't, because if there is any such thing as a babe, it's that guy out there who is just a racist, who just hates your guts. And that is extremely hard to love. Who else? Who else can do it? See, the thing about what's going on in the world and what we're doing today, there is not an instant, whether you talk about a mother and a child, a father and a child, a relationship that George was talking about, whatever relationship you're talking about, if you have love, you are proactive. You don't wait until something happened to react. You are proactive. And so as we, the world prepares to be whatever it needs to be for this to happen, we too are preparing to embracing ourselves and our foundations in love and harmony and all the things we've been talking about. It's almost, I think we are at a place where everything we've learned is coming together. And we need each other more now than we ever have to have these sessions, to talk it out. And even as you may hear me say sometimes, some days I don't do as well as I should, but I'm not afraid to talk about those. But I think this becoming as a little child is very important. To be able to see ourselves there at a spiritual place and recognize who and what we are, and see yourself as that little child and as the care of that little child, the caregiver and the one who needs care. We are all of that. And that is how we take care of the universe. That's why I think we're studying this. And I was looking, a lot of this, ties into Kemet. I will not become angry without reason. I am not deceitful. Let me see. There's a couple more I had that I had them checked off. I have not slain anyone, men or women. I will not swindle at their offering. I will not willfully commit sin. All of this is who we are. And these are things, remember we talked about these. These are things you memorize. This is what we become. This is who we are. You are the community. We are the community. No one rides by our tent without stopping to have a glass of water. So as this year shapes out, we are preparing ourselves for who we are. Thoughts or comments? This, I hope, kind of fits into everything we've said. I hope.
Yeah, Ron, this again is George. It definitely fits in. And I think yesterday you had asked me in reference to the number 4, and I want to really, maybe elaborate a little bit more on that, because it number 4, again, represents the spiritual meaning, the number of being. Okay, and you mentioned about foundation. Well, 4 symbolizes safety and security, but it talks about, the stability and strength of on a solid foundation that emphasize values and beliefs. And so as you speak about, the principles of Ma'at, when you speak about the 42, affirmations, it all ties into that foundation where we're creating a place, a sacred place, in our spirits, where we are to be able to meditate and build our innermost foundations, strengthening our spiritual being. So I think it without a doubt it relates. And if we look at 2024, right, and you add those numbers, right, we get the number 8. And so 4 and 8, are again just two numbers, but it has a lot of relevance, Ron, in terms of our spirituality. And so I just wanted to get back to that number 4, because I know you spoke about it yesterday, but being able to see how it connects with the mind, body, soul, and spirit to this physical world structure that we live in, it still comes back down to that solid foundation. And this is why you're going back to beginning. This is where you walked us through just what you said just previously, and it's just all resonating, in my spirit anyway, in reference to us doing what we do, or that process of people. I just want to share those thoughts. Again, I'm done.
Thank you, George. I appreciate you tying all that together. You're exactly right. You made me think about something too. The two that I thought was most relevant that I forgot. There was a couple of them. One says, "I will not mistreat children. I will not mistreat children." If we are children as well, I will not mistreat myself. I will not mistreat this loving kindness, this trust that is in me. I will not mistreat others because they too are little children. They don't realize it because they might be 40, 50, 60 years old, but we're talking spiritual here. I will not mistreat. And the other one that got my attention, I have not betrayed my ancestors. We have willfully taken this journey, and we are we're reminded of Peter. I mean, where will we go? Jesus said, "Will you lead me? Where will we go?" So we have been on this journey enough to see and experience truth. We have tasted truth. What else can be sweet in your mouth at this point? You gotta finish this journey. Look at who we are. It is not a boastful thing, it is a humbling thing. So as we look at this thing about children kind of got to me. And again, I heard Evelyn said it was said more than once in the last few weeks, and just kind of got my attention. But in anything, anybody, does it make sense? Anyone else? Questions or comments? Yeshua said to them, when you make the two into one, and when you make the inner like the outer, and the outer like the inner, and the upper like the lower, and when you make male and female into a single one, when you make male and female into a single one. So that the male will not be male, nor the female female. When you make eyes into an eye. When you make eyes, that's the one. When you make eyes into an eye, how do you see things? How do you see what's going on around you? How do you see your life? How do you see this stuff that we read about and hear on the news all the time? A hand in place of a hand, a foot in place of a foot, an image in place of an image. then you will enter the kingdom. So anyway, that's all I got. I thought that was worth discussing. Any thoughts or questions? And if not, do you have anything else you want to discuss? Okay.
No, thank you for that was a good discussion, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate your input. Thank you, everyone. George mentioned to us, y'all, anybody who got on late, that Monique's wife, excuse me, I'm sorry, Monique's mother transitioned early this morning. So thoughts and prayers to the family, okay? And I'll give Pastor a call and let him know as well.
Of course.
Yeah. Hey, love you guys. If there are no more thoughts and questions, then I hope you have an awesome week. I hope you have an awesome week, and we'll look forward to seeing each other on Saturday. Okay. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Barbara, and
Bye,
everyone.
fam.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Yes.
Take care,
Yes,
family.
sir.